Hi.
Theme song, theme song. Da-na-na-na. Hello. We are here.
We're back. Wine on an empty stomach.
Is your
Although
stomach
my
empty?
my
Mine
stomach
is.
is not empty. It was going to be, and then I said, Tanya, you don't have to live up to the book club name. And I had myself some avocado toast, which
Hmm.
means I will never get out of debt.
Yo, avocado toast is like for real, like wild expensive. And it's the kind of thing that, like you should just make it at
Yeah,
home.
I make it at home all the time.
And my friend, we went to brunch yesterday and she had avocado toast. And I was looking at it and I was like, it's something that I refuse to order because I know I can just make it. And then I
To
never
me, it
make it.
depends on where it is and what they're putting on it.
It depends in the bread too.
In the bread, yeah.
It's a good bread. You need good bread for avocado toast.
I like sourdough, but today I used brioche.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm,
Love the
mhm,
texture.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I should eat avocado toast. Maybe I should get some avocados.
You should.
Avocados.
And some soma.
3 grams, please. Right now. Oh
So,
man. Brave New
Brave New
World.
World. I love this book, and the audiobook is really good. I've listened to it twice now.
Me too. I listened
Uh,
to it last night. I played it when I got in bed because it's like 8 hours. And I was like, oh, osmosis. Let
I
me just
also
let that play
forgot
there.
I also forgot that we should add a trigger warning for Sue of side. Um,
Right.
I tend to forget that
Yeah, content warning, there is suicide in this book, which maybe we should have warned you about
weeks ago.
before.
But I
But
always forget about it until I get close to that part.
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
yeah. It's man, it's tough. Um I thought you were gonna be like for promiscuity and non-monogamy.
Oh, no, no,
There is
no.
also sex in this book.
Or having each other because everyone belongs to everyone.
Everyone and everyone is always happy and being together is everything. Um yeah. It's funny because I was reading this intro. I have a copy right
So
here.
do I, although I think I'm mirrored right now. This is my
Yeah.
copy.
Oh no, I
Oh,
can
no,
see
I'm
it.
not mirrored.
Boom. As you can see, there have been many additions. This one has
And
a
you can see
forward by
mine has gone
Margaret
through it a
Atwood.
little bit.
Actually, this time I didn't like I'd read the book before, but I listened to the audiobook and I listened to the BBC play that they'd
I
done.
forgot
The
to listen to that.
dramatization. Yeah, it's like 4 hours instead of the 8. And they take it's really interesting how they how they cut it. But yeah, you get the gist of the story. It's definitely more dramatic. Um,
I have to listen to that. The library has
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, that's where I got it from. Support your local library.
I was
That's where I
just
read
about to
it.
say hashtag support your local library.
Yep. We love libraries. Um, but yeah, I was the reason I brought that up is because there's an introduction and they talk about the fact that Aldous Huxley was born July 26, 1894.
Yeah, I was telling somebody about this book, and I was like, "Yeah, it came out in like the 50s. This book came out in 1932."
1931. Yeah,
31?
1932. It says, yeah, 32.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this other
1932.
thing, which is wild because I think so. One of the things when I first started rereading this book was that it felt like to know it was know it was published in 1932 and just to feel kind of it be like what year is the future that is like 2055 2255 or something.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Oh wait, hold on. I think I have it right here. Blah 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 blah. No, I don't. I lied. Well, somewhere far off into the future, further off than we are now, or and it was just really funny to me because it felt just so relevant, and it feel like every time I've read this book, it feels scary relevant. And we can get into why. Let me write that down so I don't forget. We can get into that why a little bit later. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun read. It's like it's a little scary and it's funny and
Not
Yeah.
as, like, racist as you would expect a book from 1932 to be.
Yeah, we do talk about the Negroes, though.
Yeah, which
Yeah, yeah. But there's no N word.
yeah, there's no N word,
Well
and,
done.
like, they talk about Negroes, but, like, it's not really, like, disparaging.
Mhm.
They're just referenced, although in the movie, the Feely with the big black Negro, that was a little bit like, "Rrr," but again,
Mm.
1932, but, yeah, it doesn't have I don't know what I would expect from
Yeah, I
a
think
book
it
from
it does a little bit of,
1932.
like, get out, like, we're using these genetic qualities for this reason.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that, but no, you're
And hey,
right.
look,
It's
black people exist in the future. So many
Mhm.
stories, like, they don't have black people in the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You are
It's like, where are
absolutely
we?
right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I really enjoy this book, and I think every time I read it, I I really, you know, I really enjoy it. It makes me think of a couple other books actually, 1984 by George Orwell, and
Mhm.
then, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Just, like, these weird futures where well, let's talk about these weird futures.
Alright. We got a little bit of, eugenics.
Casual eugenics. Let's build a whole society and, like, the hierarchy here is that it's intelligence based.
But
Um,
it's also manufactured intelligence.
exactly.
So certain groups are purposely stunted in intellect and physical growth so that they
Mhm.
can fulfill certain tasks and jobs, and
Yeah.
everyone's conditioned so that you love the position you're in. You can't imagine being in any other position, and you don't wanna be in any other position, like, you're perfectly happy where you are, and everybody does
Mhm.
a little drugs.
Everybody yeah. I think the fact that everybody's conditioned to not want more than where they are, but also everybody's happy because they condition that too. Like, this is
Mhm.
this is what I do, and I'm so happy about it, and nobody feels. I mean, I think that's maybe we should preface before we go into it is that this is a world where nobody feels sadness, nobody feels pain, nobody feels discomfort, and if you start to feel any of that, take a
Take some
soma,
Soma.
take some soma. It's like, super Xanax.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like super Xanax with, like, CBD. Um,
and a little
yeah,
bit of cocaine,
a little bit,
except that you fall asleep.
except that you fall asleep, right? It's just like you can go off into your dream world, and, depending on how much you take, you might just be like, "Oh, you know what? I felt down, but now I don't." Or like, "Let me go on vacation, and I'm gonna
For
take a
18
bunch of soma."
hours.
Oh, hey, AK.
Hey, okay, yes, drugs are good.
Okay.
Yummy, yummy Soma.
Yum. I mean,
Actually, when Tariq named his puppy Soma, that it cracked me up because this was the first thing I thought of.
yeah, it's actually she's named after the Smashing Pumpkins song, Soma.
Well, it
Yeah.
reminded me of this, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Aw, Soma. Soma,
So
Soma."
man, this is such yeah. I
Like,
just
man,
I feel a lot of things about this book.
this is a world where the word mother is vulgar,
Let's
you
talk
know?
about that.
Family is vulgar.
Right? Like, Tanya was getting to the point that, everything is, like, manufactured, right? Like, they have this is a list of things and how we're gonna accomplish it. This is how we're conditioning and programming these people based on these things, and because of that, nobody is born. Nobody's born, right? People
No one's ever alone.
No one's ever oh, yeah, that too. No one's ever alone to think, have their thoughts to themselves. No one, they are all are decanted. They're decanted. So there's no birth and there's no mothers, even though they do harvest ovaries from women, which I remember. I think I missed that part on like the first for
Well,
my first read.
just the eggs,
Just the egg, but they take excise ovaries and they take the eggs,
because
right? And
remember there's the woman on the reservation who's from that society who ends up
yeah,
actually getting pregnant.
yeah. And then I think I forgot they were saying where like some of the women, based on what they do, they're born sterile, but they do keep some ovaries around for that. Kids playing sex games is normal. Yeah,
Yes,
they
and
condition them
encouraged.
early. Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, look at
Yeah,
each other's peepees.
yeah. Play
It's
with
totally
them.
normal. They're death conditioned so that people
Yeah.
don't feel sadness for death
It's just
or
part of the
feel anything
process.
at all, really. It's
Yeah,
just,
death is
okay, well, they died.
normalized. Excuse me. I'm getting burpy. Yeah, what a strange new world that they live in.
You know
Uh,
what I thought was interesting? That they don't have families, but people have last names.
hmm. I wonder are they assigned?
I guess.
Yeah, they don't talk about that. Hmm. Are they
I just
assigned?
wondered, where do the names even come from?
Yeah. It's like because like the other classes, like I guess we should talk about the hierarchy, right?
You have the alphas, the betas,
Alpha plus plus.
alpha plus plus.
Yeah. It's alpha plus plus, and it goes down. I forgot what the bottom one is, but there's like the epsilons who
Epsilons.
are like, well, on the
Or like, I think they're
totem
little
pole.
people.
Hmm. Character, it's Bernard. Looking at other notes. Yeah, but they've got all these it's a class-based society, and they've got all these different classes of people. And so the top people, like the alpha plus pluses, are the ones who run the world and make decisions for people. And like bottom of the totem pole is like manual labor. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones taking your garbage out. They're the ones, making sure that this place stays clean, because everything is clean and everybody's healthy and nobody gets old. And if they do, the aging process is really, really slight. I remember they said something about the man who was giving the tour in the beginning, the director, and they're like, he's somewhere between 35 and 65, but nobody knows.
Yeah, because once you hit 35, like you stop aging.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if
So
he was
everyone
black.
pretty much, that reminds me of that movie. I think it's called like Out of Time or something, with Justin Timberlake, where like everyone, you make it to like 25 or something, and then your time starts counting down and everything is paid for in time. So
Yeah.
like if you don't have time, like you'll just drop dead at 25.
Yeah.
So it made me think of that.
I've never seen that. Um,
It's an interesting concept. Like basically like he gets what's the word? Radicalized because his mother, he needs to give her some time.
mm-hmm.
Oh, in time. Yeah, she needs to like get home, and like the bus is going to take more time than she actually has. And so,
Mm.
and it's running late, and he's trying to meet her, and like they run into each other just as her last minute runs out, and he was coming to give her some time so that she could get home, and it kind of radicalizes him. And so the rich
Mm.
society, they have like thousands and thousands of years like stored away in vaults, and it's kind of a cool concept. I can't remember how much I liked it. I think I'd watch it again to decide.
Yeah.
Anywho, people here reach 35, which I think is a good age. I wouldn't mind stop aging at 35.
Here's the thing. I liked 35. I 37, I think, was one of my favorite like ages. Oh well, okay, fuck it. I'm older than 37, obviously. And I think that's Googleable. But I think maybe I feel that way about 37 because that was like lockdown era. So I didn't really, in my mind, I didn't age past them.
Mhm.
But I like 37, but I do enjoy being in my 40s. I really actually do. I'm having so much fun. Um, so yeah.
I think I was in really good shape at 34.
Mm,
So like, and then I got pregnant. So 35, I had a baby.
right.
Was not in as good shape. I was a little bit stretched.
Ah, man.
But yeah, I think, yeah, I
She became
liked.
a mother.
I became, yeah.
Ew. Yeah. Zeta. I'm
So we
looking this
have
up. Go ahead.
Bernard,
Mhm.
who's a little bit of a weirdo. Everybody thinks that some alcohol got into his decanter.
I
Um,
love that rumor
yeah.
because here's the thing: is like when the embryos are developing, they either take really good care of it or they inundate it with alcohol. because they want to change the brain functioning, and they want them to be of a lower intelligence level. So they do it on purpose. So our boy Bernard, the rumor has
Some
it,
accidentally got in.
yeah, which is,
There's a scene or part where Lenina is distracted at work and can't remember if she gave the embryo the
yes.
medicine, and then they tell you 22 years later that person gets sick from a disease no one has seen in 50 years.
Yeah, and it was someone who was he was a promising young man.
Yeah,
And yeah, then he dies of it's like dying of
some
polio today.
illness.
Yeah, it was like a sleeping sickness or something, I think it was.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah,
But yeah, Bernard's a little bit of a weirdo. We
just
find out
having his
they
own
spend
thoughts.
yeah, and he gets kind of offended at the promiscuity even though they're conditioned for it. And he's like he
Mm-hmm.
keeps saying like, "Oh, like meat, so much meat." Because Lenina's like, "Well, do you want to have me?" Or, and everybody's just kind of like, "Yeah, we went out, we had sex, it's whatever."
Yeah,
Like,
this is what
yeah,
we do.
that's what
It's
we
just what
do.
people do. They get off of work, they find a partner, they go have sex,
You see how
and
my
then the
lighting
next day,
just changed?
it did, and then it changed again. Oh,
That's so weird.
I like it. It's very we're talking about sexiness, and now you're like,
I
you
know
got
it's
the
all
red light
red.
special going on.
Yeah, like what just happened?
And AK, you're right. He's so mad that no one sees the world like he does. And it makes me wonder, like we were talking about, people are not spending time alone because they don't want people to have time to think about anything. Everybody's always like buddied up. And it's just like, oh, well, where are you getting these time? Oh, to think these thoughts. What's his job again? Hold on.
I don't remember what Bernard's job is.
Yeah, Bernard's job is something really interesting, like curating the stories or something. Hold on. Bernard, Brave New World. And I'm glad that we're calling her Lenina, because I watched something and they're like Lenina, and I was like, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
in the audiobook he
She's a
calls her
Lenina,
Lenina.
which I really love. Let's see.
Lenina.
Girl.
Sounds weird.
Right? Like, unless someone is called like whatever, that's your name.
Sorry
Okay.
if your name is Lenina. My
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Because like,
No
really?
offense.
You were born and called the girl. That's like lazy parenting, but whatever. Let me not get in trouble. Yeah. Hold on, no. I'm looking for his job, but whatever. We'll come back. I'll find it and I'll come back to that, because his job is really interesting. It's like this way of programming people, and yeah, just poor Bernard. Because the other thing is like people want to hook up with him, but I feel like he's carrying a torch for Lenina, and he's just like, well, why would I think he's, based on what comes later in the book, I feel like he's just not successful because everybody thinks that he got too much alcohol, or he was like, he's a risk, because he is weird and he's not doing the things conforming to the norms, and that makes people worry.
Yeah. And we find out later that people like that get sent to an island where they just kind of send all the people like that together.
I mean, can we just call a spade a spade? He's a coward. Bernard is a coward. He's like too shy to, or he's like too scared to say what he thinks, like because he doesn't want to be sent to an island. But like, imagine what would happen if he actually, had the balls to back up these thoughts. Kind of like Helmholtz, his homie, who gives no fucks about thinking the way that he does.
Let's talk about the reservation.
Oh, they also said that he's short.
Right, and alphas are tall.
Yeah.
Something went wrong with Bernard's decanter. So in this world there's still reservations, but this time it's it's still like indigenous people, but it's like people who are not part of this society, where they still have marriage, they still have God. There's no God in the civilized society, as they say. They worship Ford. Which I think is so funny. I think that's hilarious. This red light is so weird. I don't know what just happened.
It's okay. I think it's okay. He's a sleep learning specialist at the Central London Hatchery. right?
Okay.
So he's programming the subliminal messaging, right? So we talk a little bit about, oh, these babies or embryos are, um, eugenics. They're selecting how they want them to be, but also everybody goes through this conditioning from whatever age to whatever age, and they're just getting all these messages in their sleep, which is probably why I thought I could like memorize it last night when I listened to it.
But we also learned that you can't necessarily learn. You can do the conditioning, but you can't learn that way because they tried that and the kids would repeat, for instance, what is the largest river? And then the kid says it. But then when you ask the kids, so what is the largest river? They don't have an answer.
Yeah.
They just know to repeat, like, the largest river in the world is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It's like when you're teaching your kids to read, right?
Yeah.
I used to do it with my brother with the Cat in the Hat, and then I was like, oh my God, he's reading. I'm like, oh no, he just memorized this book.
Your sound cut out. Can you repeat that?
Oh, yeah. I was saying that it reminds me of when both my nephew and my brother, when they were really little, I would like read them the Cat in the Hat, and it'd be like, oh, Cat in the Hat. And I'm like, oh, you're reading. And it's like, no, you're not reading. They just memorized the book because we've read it so many
That
times.
happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot with Donut. I have to switch up the books because he starts to memorize what the story is rather than what the individual words are. So I have to switch them up a lot. And then he gets mad because it's like, I know this one. I'm going to highlight AK's comment. I hope nothing bad is coming for me. It's really weird. Like, I didn't do it. I don't want to open the blinds again. I feel
All
like
the
I'm in
alarms are
trouble.
going off. You're like Hunt for the Red October.
Oh my God. Like, do I open the blinds? I don't know what to do right now.
Go for it. Why not?
All right. I'm going to open the blinds.
It's forgiven. Hey, AK, how you doing? Talk to me in the chat. You know what? AK and I are in this writer's workshop called The Right Set. It's a very interesting bunch of people, and we've been doing a few side projects. Like we were holiday stories told from the perspective of objects that you wouldn't normally think of, like, Scotch tape or Christmas wreaths. And we also did trying hard not to move your couch. Yeah, I feel that. It's that kind of weekend. We also did it for Halloween, like spooky season. And I gotta say, like, I'm in a few different writing workshops or writing groups, and this one is really my favorite because it's such an interesting group of characters. Yeah, the Right Set, or the set as I call them because we clicked up, it's really, really fun. And I'm looking forward to our next prompt because in talking to Ayla, I had an idea for another one. But yeah, I think it's going to be good times. You guys won't hear the next prompt, but we're doing stand-up comedy routines, which is going to be really fun. But yeah, back to Bernard.
I'm back with normal light. I had to open the blinds and take off one of my filters.
Yeah,
something moved.
Yeah, the emergency is over.
Yes, I'm safe again. The ghosts have gone. Sorry, I know we've mentioned before. If you haven't listened to us before, I live in a haunted apartment. So,
she who shall not be named.
Yes, we won't say her name, but she's been very active recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywho,
we're talking about the dudes here, but let's talk about Lenina. Lenina's job is to be in the department that does things to embryos.
Yeah, she it sounds like it's almost like a assembly line. Like the embryo comes down and then she puts in the medicine.
Yeah.
And then the next embryo comes down, she puts in the medicine, and it's like mind numbing, just repetitive.
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like.
She's a vaccinine
Vaccinine. That's kind of a pretty name for a girl.
A vaccinine. Me and my friends were talking about last week names that don't mean any names that sound really pretty that you wouldn't name your children.
I saw a post about that. One of them was omelet.
Right? We were one of the ones we came up with was vendetta, which I really
Mm.
love. And my next cat is going to be Vendetta because I feel like it's a great cat name. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it is
she's
a
a
good cat name.
vaccination worker. So her job is to inoculate the embryos against all these things. But she's
Oh,
also interested. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was talking about the reservation.
Oh, yes.
So on these reservations, they still have God and religion. They still have marriage. They still believe in like monogamy. They
Mm-hmm.
still have children the natural way.
Yeah.
Um, and they're called savages because they're not civilized.
All right. That's mirrored. But I'm pointing to. Yeah. It's not civilized.
Making a
You know what's
savage.
something, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really understand why, or I never understood why, like, why some areas became so civilized and why they just left the other ones to like do what they do. Because this story takes place in London,
Right. And
and we hear about some
the
other places.
reservation was in like Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, why leave these places to just do what they do?
it is mentioned why, and I can't remember what it was. I think they tried and
Mm,
something happened. Now I don't really remember.
that's okay. We'll read it again.
We will.
Yeah, but the thing about reservations is that when you live in the civilized society, that they are now tourist attractions. People take trips. They're going on vacation to like go native and see what's going on.
Hmm.
And this is kind of like, for me, where the story really begins. It's like a lot of it is just like backstory. You meet Lenina, you meet Helmholtz, you meet the director, and one day Bernard and Lenina, after like him being like the girl of his hookup fantasies, they get together and he takes her out to the reservation. Whew.
New Mexico, not
New
specifically Santa
Mexico.
Fe, but do
Okay,
continue.
out to New Mexico. They go on this date, and in a helicopter, and they get there, and he's like looking at it from an anthropological point of view. He wants to like understand like what's going on with the people on the reservation, the savages. And she's just like, I'm on a vacation with this guy, I think he's cute. um but very quickly they get drawn into the messiest of messes. um they find out that their director he got a baby mama who
Which
he
is scandalous.
scandalous because she gave birth to a child. And he is a
He's a
father.
father.
And it's what's funny is that like father and mother, they don't hold the same kind of weight, right? Father to
Right.
somebody is a joke. Like they laugh at, like he became the laughing stock, which we'll talk about. But like
Hmm.
father is like something that people joke about. It's really, really funny. People can't, like, if you say father, people can't help but laugh. But mother is a slur. Like, whew, why would
Yeah.
you ever say that?
Like you fight over that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have a mother. Oh no, fisticuffs. But yeah, they go to this reservation and they meet this young man named John the Savage, and they meet his mother. They find out that she is from London. She has been through the society. She misses Soma so much. She misses Soma so much, and this child that she's had, and was abandoned to raise on her own, has only heard about the other place where all these magical things happen, where people fly everywhere and no one gets sick and no one is hungry and everyone is taken care of and it's so clean. Um, yeah. And we find out that his mommy Linda has had a really hard life. Because what's interesting is, like, even though she has this child and she's raising her son, he's not allowed to call her mom.
No. No, he calls her Linda.
She can't shake that conditioning.
And she still can't shake the everyone belongs to everyone conditioning. So she sleeps with everybody's man.
She's the
Because
town slut.
what's the big deal? And
Yeah.
people get really angry. At one point she gets jumped.
They
Like
beat the
the
shit out
wives
of
grab
her
her.
with a corded whip.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And like, she gets there and all the husbands are like, oh, she's DTF. Okay. But yeah, then the wives find out and she's super confused because she's not used to this. Everyone
Yeah, it
belongs
makes
to
no sense to
everybody.
her.
Mm-hmm.
When
Yeah.
she can't get soma, she drinks mezcal
She
and
becomes
just
a
gets
raging
hammered.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
What does she say? She's like, it's like Soma, except you wake up sick the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our poor lady Linda's having hangovers like wicked. Like
In a
AK says,
world with no hangovers.
severe. Sign me up. Yeah. So it's really interesting. We get there and we're just like, oh shit. This is a high ranking person who has had a baby and left the baby and the woman behind. And
So he didn't on purpose. They went, he and Linda went on this trip, and at some point in the night she disappeared. Couldn't find her, so he went home and just never saw her again. And they're not supposed to be attached to each other, so it's not like they sent a search party. It was just kind of like, well, I guess she's gone.
yeah.
Turned out she like slipped and fell, and no one came to rescue her, and he left. And then by the time she was found, he was gone.
Yeah.
And so she was stuck there and didn't realize she was pregnant because I'm not clear on how their prophylactics work. They talk about doing their Malthusian drills and like all these things, but I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Me neither.
Well, whatever it was she was supposed to do didn't
She
happen.
didn't take her tansy.
It didn't happen, and now she's pregnant.
Oh no. And like, you know, for what it's worth, I agree with their stance. They're like, ew, no, I don't have it in me.
I will say, I talk about this all the time. Pregnancy is absolutely body horror. It's body horror. And, you know, if we ever do body horror story, we can absolutely get into that, but it's absolutely body horror. It's like the movie Alien.
Yeah. None of my friends who've been pregnant have ever convinced me that this was a good idea.
No.
They're all
I love
like,
my children. I love my children. I do not love being pregnant. Nope. Except for like, you can eat as much as you want and nobody can tell you're bloated.
Yeah.
So that part's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Still no. So yeah, he's like, you know, Linda and John have been left behind and she's doing the best she can to raise him. She teaches him how to read, which nobody else can do.
And she tries to teach him like the conditioning that she learned as well. But obviously she's a beta. And so she doesn't work in those areas. So the conditioning didn't work. Like he knows the little poems and things, but he didn't get conditioned.
Right. And it's really cute because he learned to read off of Shakespeare.
Which is banned in civilized society.
Yeah.
Because art is banned.
Yeah, go ahead. I
was going to say they read like manuals, and that's like the extent of it.
The TVA is their guidebook, and that is it.
Yeah.
The TVA manual. But I two things. I made a note to myself so I wouldn't forget, is that chapter 16 is everything to me, where the controller is like talking about like breaking it down to John, like, you know, everything. Oh man, love it. But I was also going to mention that he's reading Shakespeare, but the title of the book comes from a Shakespeare play, The Tempest.
And John repeats over and over, "Brave New World, brave new world."
Oh, brave new world that has such people in it. That's the actual quote that it comes from. And Miranda says it in The Tempest, which I really love. We should do Shakespeare one time.
Well, we're doing Romeo plus Juliet for 30 Tuesdays next month.
February 13th. Tune in.
Be there.
We'll drop it in the
Be
chat.
there or be square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she learns to read off of Shakespeare, and this is like basically his worldview. He knows that there's religion in his society. He knows that people are monogamous. He knows that his mother got beat to shit for not following those rules. And he knows that
believes
he's
in
ostracized.
Self-flagellation as well.
Yeah. He's I don't want to say he's been indoctrinated into the dogma. I won't say that he's, fallen to it because he's a kid. He doesn't know, but he also knows that he's isolated from everyone else because his mother is not like everyone else. He's poor kid. He's ostracized. There's the other kids are like, they don't say which words. He just knows that they're bad words about.
They're like,
his mother.
Your mama's a hoe.
And
she's like, okay, and she
does
not get it. And you would think after all that time, maybe she would change and kind of fit in, but the conditioning is so strong that like they're still savages to her.
Do you mean, Tanya, that you can't turn a hoe into a housewife? Is that what they're saying here?
Is that the theme of this entire book? I disagree with that though. Could absolutely turn a hoe into a housewife.
We've seen it done. They won't
Because
cook
just
and they
because you're a
won't
housewife doesn't mean you have to stop being a hoe.
exactly. Or, you don't cook and you don't clean, but
Still got that
get the
ring.
ring. Yeah. And it's a really, I think that the whole reservation savage thing is really interesting. And bringing it back to our main, yeah, he didn't get initiated.
From
He didn't.
AK, they won't let him participate in the war games and ceremonies. I felt bad for the kid.
It's given Rudolph.
Yeah, but like way more severe.
Yeah. But Bernard is like, oh, this is fascinating. Wait a second. Your dad is a director? Oh, he was about to send me to Iceland. Like, ha ha ha. Noted. Meanwhile, Lenina is like, ooh.
Lennon is kind of disgusted too.
She is, but
She
she wants him
decides
on
to
her
take
list.
she kind of takes a soma nap.
Yeah, afterwards, she's just like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't live like this. Is too dirty. Let me go to sleep for like 36 hours and have a soma vacation. Whew.
Soma sounds lit.
It really does. It really does. Because it's like, imagine you have like a bad rendezvous and you're like, Soma.
Just take some soma and
Soma,
you live in
take
a fantasy
me
while you're in it. It's not like you're
away.
just unconscious. Like you're in a fantasy world, living like all your best dreams.
Good. I'm glad we got back to that because you know what else it reminds me of? Um, the Oankali who, right, are able, like, I was like, oh my God, Octavia Butler, what? But the reason before it actually reminded me of that was because what they talk about, like the wonderful thing about humanity is like their curiosity and their ability to learn. But like the worst thing about them is that it's always got to be hierarchical. And you
Mhm.
see this, like the best and the worst of this coming together. But also like the ability to not synthesize, to create I'm blanking on the word, but the ability to create these feelings, right? Like Soma, you go to sleep, it's a fantasy. You are living in a dream world. You go into the feelings, it's like it's virtual reality, but like for real.
Mhm.
It's
All of the
augmented
senses.
reality,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
It
like,
kind of reminds me of like at the aquarium they have, well, actually at Disney too, but they have like the 4D movies.
boo. Oh no, I'm thinking about RDX. Ooh, I'm still nauseous from that.
Although this one was like for instance, the aquarium, they had a shark one, and you have on the 3D glasses and the shark jumps out the screen at you, but the spray of water hits you too.
Yeah, oh no, that is 4DX. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of cool. The baby didn't like it. He cried. We had to leave.
I almost cried too. Because I went to see The Nightmare Before Christmas and all of a sudden my chair's moving and there's pss, pss, pss coming at me. And yeah. And the thing is, like, I had just eaten Five Guys like while I was in there. So I was like, how am I able to eat this? Hey, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi. Welcome. Yay. Yeah, it's like very much an immersive experience. um I mean,
And the
would I want to
savage
go to a
John.
feely?
I would absolutely go to
Yeah,
a Feely. Um,
absolutely.
John the Savage, as they call him, Mr. Savage, which I think is hilarious. Um, at the Feely, there's a kissing scene, and while he's holding the device or whatever that you're supposed to hold, he feels it on his lips, and he lets go, and it goes away, and he's like, it's titillating, and it makes him uncomfortable. And I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
can you imagine an actual Feely?
Can you imagine your first kiss being a feely?
And like, oh, but I guess they don't really have much art, so they don't have like horror feelies.
That would be wild.
Like you're just getting stabbed.
AK, write that down. We have a new prompt.
Yeah, their feelies are essentially like flying around and having sex. Like everyone's just getting ravished and then they fly in helicopters. And that's kind of
Mm.
the extent of the feelie.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So I guess we're going fast today. So guess what? They bring the savage back to civilization and Linda because Bernard wants to embarrass the shit out of the director
Who
and
was going to send him to Iceland?
send him to Iceland. Be gone. Oh, your screen we're gonna talk about making feelies but horror. And that's our prompt. Horror feelies. Yeah. But yeah, he brings him back, and there's this whole scene. Like, I don't know that I had feelings either way for the director. Like, I understand, like, he's maintaining his position, and this is actually the things. His attitude towards Bernard is like as should be, um, pruning him because I watched Loki yesterday, and it makes sense. It makes sense to preserve their society, but Bernard, because he's a coward, was like, let me hit first, like, hit first before they hit me. And so he brings the director was going to basically exile him in front of everybody on this floor in the baby factory. And Bernard's like, all right, bet. And so he's there about to give the speech. He's like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Let me bring in Linda. And Linda is a horror to these people. She's lost some teeth because she got the tick that got them kicked out of her face. She's fat. She's old. Just like everything that the society has controlled for.
Right.
And woof, I felt so bad for her.
They basically call her a monstrosity.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, why does she look like that? She has wrinkles and she's fat. Like it's like all stuff that they've erased,
No one has ever seen this before.
Yeah.
They didn't
Nobody
know it
alive.
was
Yeah, nobody
possible.
currently alive has seen a person age like this.
Yeah. And so, like, not only is they bring him out, and she's got this like she's got this very dramatic, you know,
She
becking
runs up and
scene,
throws her arms around his neck, and she's like, "It's me, it's Linda."
calling him a pet name.
Yeah,
She's like,
Comican.
Schnookums, don't you
She's like,
remember me?
"Comican, don't you remember?"
And everybody's like, what? And she's like, I had a child and I'm a mother and you're a father. And they're like, everybody loses their shit.
I think she says,
Everybody.
"You made me have a baby." I think that's what she said. And like everybody went crazy. And
Yeah.
then John the Savage introduces himself and calls him father. And the shame, the shame, the
Shame.
shame.
I don't have a bell. I wanted to ring it, but I absolutely do not
I
have a
used to have a
bell.
shame bell on my phone, but I don't anymore.
Yeah. Well, we're ringing it. Imagine. Take your soma and imagine that we
Oh wait,
rang
I
the
do
bell.
still have a shame bell.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, I hope you're.
did you hear that?
Yes, we did. Shame, shame. AK. Can you highlight AK? Highlight AK's comment.
No shade, but I wanted to jump into a tub of Purell reading that scene of her being all over him.
Right,
She
Sydney?
probably,
The
yeah, she was probably
eugenics.
stink. So I want to tap shame again.
Shame. No, I mean, she came straight off the reservation. They didn't bathe her first.
No.
They
And
only gave her soma after she'd embarrassed him.
yeah. And then she stayed on her permanent summer vacation until it killed her, which everyone
Yeah.
thought was for the best.
Yeah.
Except for John.
How did you feel about it?
I felt for her, it's what she wanted,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
The way she's conditioned, she simply didn't want to live like that. She didn't want to look like that. And while it's unfortunate, she would have never been accepted back into quote civilized
No.
society.
There was no weight loss
And
plan for her. There's no
no,
Botox.
yeah, and she wanted to just go on a permanent summer vacation. And I'm just like, hey, if that's
Yeah.
what's gonna get you through it.
I
I
mean, she
mean, the
was.
way she died was horrifying because she couldn't breathe.
Yeah, she
Um,
suffocated.
it would have been nice if she just went to sleep and just didn't wake back up. But
Absolutely
instead,
would
she
have been a
suffocated and was
kinder.
gasping for air, which was horrifying for
Mm-hmm.
me reading it, and also for poor John who's
To
witnessing it.
witness with all the maggoty twins.
Yeah. How
Right?
creepy is that?
It
That
is
they just
creepy.
make these identical people
Yeah.
for like the lower castes. They just make identical
Right?
embryos. They just
They
keep
basically
splitting
like
it
if it's
over and over
successful,
and
it's like
over.
I think it's like 98 or 96 is the max that they found that they could make without it like getting weird and becoming unstable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a mercy killing. Somanasia. Hold on, I have to sneeze.
Yeah, it's essentially euthanasia.
Yeah. Oh,
And
terrible.
John's like, won't that they're like, oh yeah, no, it'll kill her.
Hmm.
It's like, what's the big deal? She'll die. So what?
Yeah, and we're cool with that. Like, oh, thank God. Right?
Yeah.
It's like painting over the mark on your wall. They're like, whoop, whoop, never happened.
Right.
But we got to talk about Bernard because, like, this raised his social status.
Yes. Bernard gets very popular.
Because he's got the savage, and everybody wants to see the savage.
And the ladies want to have sex with him. They've never been with a savage before.
No, they haven't. And everybody's for everyone.
And everybody belongs to everybody.
Yeah.
And poor John falls in love. Now I have to sneeze. Falls in love with Lenina and wants to prove himself.
Oh, thank you. Sneeze again for me because mine never got out.
He wants to like prove himself to her to show that he's worthy. Meanwhile, she just thinks he's hot and is like, let's do this. And like weeks go by where he won't give her any attention. And she just doesn't understand. She's just like, I guess he doesn't like me.
Meanwhile, he's in love. He's smitten with her.
Completely in love with her.
Well, casually stalkerish, but yeah, in love because he's never felt a love like this before. And all his context for love and romance and promiscuity comes from Shakespeare, which is obviously problematic.
Like what does he call her? Something strumpet.
Strumpet.
Impudent strumpet. Over and over. And it's like he wants her, but like, and this it's like one of those things that's like so problematic because it's kind of still a thing where it's like you want her, she wants you, but wait, what do you mean you want to do it with me? Like it shouldn't be this easy. And it's like, but I thought we wanted each other.
Yeah, that whole scene where she comes to his chambers and is like undressing, and she's like, "Oh my God, why did you tell me?" And he was like, horrified.
And he slaps her. He's like slaps her in the back.
Yes. After they had gone on a date that she thought was super successful. Impudent hussy. The reason I thought, because like impudent strumpet, it's from My Fair Lady, where he's singing that song
he did
about
call her a strumpet.
No, he did, but impudent hussy is what comes to mind for me because of My Fair Lady. He's like, you impudent hussy. There's not a thought in your head that I didn't put there. Yeah. Strumpet is actually one of my favorite words because it's just like, what, for real? And it makes me hungry because I want a crumpet because it rhymes. But anyway, yeah. Crumpets are delicious. I don't know if have you ever had a crumpet before?
I don't think I've ever had a crumpet.
Oh, it's kind of like an English muffin, but not really, but kind of. Yeah, delish.
I thought English muffins were crumpets.
Are they? I feel like they're a little bit different. They're similar but different. My friend Melissa, shout out to Melissa from New Zealand, often has them at her house.
I'm coming over, Melissa.
Let's do it. But yeah, she like, she's like, oh my God, let's do it. And he's like, no. Like, I want to get married. And she's like, huh?
Married?
What?
What do you take me for?
Yeah. It's just like, what I really enjoy about this book is the hard time that people have reconciling these two things. Like, what do you mean that's what you do? What do you mean you don't do that? It's just like a clash of concepts, only to find out that these people have been being kept in the dark on purpose. They want to control society. Like, everybody's cool and everybody's nice and everybody's happy because that's the way they want it. There's no God, there's no art, there's no real science, which we find out from the director. We also
those things inflame people and make them start to think outside of the box, I guess is the best way to put it. And we don't want that. No, we want everything inside the box. There's peace, there's no more war, there's no
Mm-hmm.
more hunger.
Mm-hmm.
There's no war, there's no famine, everything is just
Everyone's just happy.
everybody's happy and everyone belongs to everyone.
And everybody's content because
There's
like
no
they've been conditioned
loyalties.
to want this
Right,
is
there are
it.
no loyalties because there are no families. There's
Yeah.
no monogamy, so there's no wanting one person and feeling like you have to like fight for them or anything like that. There's no
Yeah.
jealousy.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. So I was looking for the movie, even though I don't really do that, but I was looking for the movie. None of them are available on streaming. Wow.
There's a
But
Brave New World movie. I knew there was a
there's two
show.
of them. There's two of them, actually. I forgot which years they were. But the show, I started to watch the first episode because I was curious and I
I
had
heard it was
issues.
horrible.
Well, okay. Here's the thing about the show, from what I could gather. First of all, I was disappointed because Lenina is like character number one that they start with, and I'm like, "Ugh, no, it's not about you." But also, it's a very interesting take on it. You know, it's like anytime you have let me go search the term. AK. Anytime you have an adaptation, you have to kind of be open to, what they do with it. And they call her in, like the opening of the show is them calling her in from her job, and they're like, "Listen, you've been having sex with this one person, and we all know. And here are the tapes." And they're showing her like multiple times having like, and I think he was an alpha plus plus, and they're like, why are you hogging him, essentially? And
Yeah, I do remember that from the story where like
yeah,
they're like, you've been seeing him a lot. Like that's kind of weird.
yeah. Her friend's like, oh, if you keep doing it, like, I'm gonna report you, just jokingly. But I think what comes up is like, he reported her. And so then it gets messy. So I'm totally gonna watch it because I was like, oh yeah, now that we've talked about it, like, we can get in there. But I'm not willing to go and hating it off the bat, because I'm interested to see how they interpret
I
it.
still mean to watch it. It got canceled.
Yeah.
I do still intend to watch it, but I did only hear bad things about it.
Yeah. But, purists are always gonna hate things. And
Yeah,
what
I'm
I
a
thought was really
purist.
interesting about this edition that I have from the book is that the foreword is by Margaret Atwood.
Huh, I wonder what mine is. Let's see.
Yeah. I don't know. Like,
Oh, mine doesn't have a forward.
I think the other thing interesting from it is that, after this thing, I guess we're not spoiling too much. But after this scene where Linda, you know, goes off to sleep forever with her Soma, John reacts really, really terribly, because they're making a spectacle of her death. Whereas for them, they're like, oh, this is a woman who died. This is death. Let me expose you guys to it. Like, here's
Mhm.
this class of like, I forgot what class they were. Were they gammas or something? But basically exposing them to this death of a woman who is a novelty and an anomaly to them. And he loses his shit. Like, imagine if
Mhm.
somebody like brought a bunch of strangers into your mother's hotel room, hospital room, after she had died. Like, yeah, no, I'm fighting too. Um, and then after that, they get brought to the controller's office, and he's like, "Listen, look, I got the Bible here. Read that if you want. I've got all these texts." Um, and the problem was is that I was doing science, and it was actually a little bit of important science, but they were like, I either was gonna get the island, or like, fast track to this position. He was like, I took this position. And so Bernard is afraid he's going to get exiled to the island. And he's like, actually, if he was fucking smart, he would want to go there, because that's where the most interesting, free thinking people are actually are. They can't
Mhm.
do us any harm from there, but they have that community.
He sees it as a sacrifice that he stayed and took this
Hmm.
position.
Yeah, so interesting. Poor everyone. Poor John. Well, not poor Bernard. Kind of fuck Bernard, but like
Well,
everybody else.
Bernard kinda we only have a few minutes left, but Bernard kinda loses his status because one night the
Hmm.
Savage doesn't show up for the party, and because he's sick of this shit. He's tired of being paraded around. He
He's
doesn't
like,
enjoy it. He doesn't enjoy the attention from women. He wants to
hmm,
call them all strumpets, and, he's tired of being a spectacle.
exactly, and
And this
rightly so.
society is just seems so weird to him, and he feels like he doesn't fit in on the reservation, and now he's finally gone to civilized society, and he doesn't fit in there either.
Mm-hmm. You know, it reminds me of the episode of The Twilight Zone where they land on that planet and only that one guy is like brave enough to go out, and they're like they keep luring him with this attractive woman, and only for him to find out that he's in a zoo. They like take all
I
the
don't
doors
remember
down
that
off of the
episode.
house, and he's like, he's in a cage and he's on display for that, advanced alien society, which you
It's
think
time
is
for me
not
to
so
do another
advanced.
binge.
Let's do it. So yeah, I think, and the thing about John is like, obviously, oh, how do I say this without getting in trouble? He
Time
has
to
he
be hashtag problematic.
hashtag no, they might cancel me. Let's just say that he takes literal interpretations out of everything he's read because he doesn't know that it's fantasy, right?
Hmm.
He probably has no idea that Shakespeare is fiction, right? He doesn't have the reference to be like, oh, this is just a story that someone made up, blah 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 blah. So he's taking all that, and when he finally like escapes, he goes to live his own life only to become a spectacle again. Because they're
Right.
like,
He
look,
moves into like a lighthouse and he's out there whipping himself and growing a garden because he doesn't want to eat their fake foods, even though he admits that they're more
mm-hmm,
nutritious.
yeah. It's just like I think that, Aldous Huxley does something that's really interesting because it's like, okay, let's take your lit class 101. But like the lighthouse is a symbol of like isolation, right? And a
Hmm.
beacon of like all these things, and being able to be self-sufficient. And they take that away from him too.
Hmm. Reporters come and they watch him. Somebody films him and makes a whole feely out of it. And now he's famous. And so now people are coming in their helicopters and they're like, get the whip, get the whip. And they just don't take him seriously at all. And, when I was reading it the very first time, I remember thinking it was sad, but it was kind of funny that they're like, yeah, get the whip. And then he tries to whip all of them. And,
Yeah.
um, of course, and sadly, hold on, I'm going to highlight this question from Cinnamon. Is the savage mixed race or black? No, the savage is white. He's a
Yeah.
white Englishman.
Mhm.
And
An
it's one of
awesome
the reasons.
picture, by the way. It's
Oh
so cute.
yeah, it's an awesome picture. Yeah, he's white, and that's why he didn't fit in with the brown people and thought he'd do
Mhm.
better in London and
Yeah,
didn't fit in there either.
yeah. Oh, man, it's
He
so
quickly
terrible. Mhm.
he quickly turns into the old man in the neighborhood yelling at kids to get off his lawn. That's exactly it. And then even Lenina shows up
Mhm.
and
With a man that, she used to be banging.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
and
back in the same thing.
it just completely enrages him because he starts feeling lust for Lenina and love because he's in love with her, and then it makes him angry because he feels he should have been thinking of Linda and remembering Linda,
Mhm.
and instead he had started to actually enjoy himself, and then he was mad at himself for that and began whipping himself some more.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the spectacle of it, the fact that people won't leave him alone in the end, you know, is what drives him to suicide, which
Yeah.
in itself just becomes another spectacle.
Man, the last words of the book where they're just describing it, like,
I'm gonna
turning.
read it because it's
Hmm.
so dark. Like I didn't expect it to get that dark that fast.
Real quick before you read it as you're looking for it, I have it here, but you can read it. Um, I talk about writers and their words being delicious here.
Hmm.
And like we've talked about the story, but just like the writing is so incredible. So yeah, 2 tasties for Aldous Huxley.
All
I'm gonna have to figure out a tasty scale.
right, I'm gonna read this last part. Slowly, very slowly, like two unhurried compass needles, the feet. Oh, wait, I'm gonna go before that. Through an archway on the further side of the room, they could see the bottom of the staircase that led up to the higher floors. Just under the crown of the arch dangled a pair of feet. Mr. Savage! Slowly, very slowly, like two unhurried compass needles, the feet turned towards the right, north, northeast, east, southeast, south, south, southwest, then paused, and after a few seconds turned as unhurriedly back towards the left, south, southwest, south, southeast, east.
And that's the end of the book. just like,
It fucked me up the first time I read it because I was like, "Wait, what?" Like I didn't see it coming. Like I just didn't. None of the books seemed that dark to me leading up to
yeah.
this.
And honestly, when he left, I thought that he was like gonna go back to the reservation or something, like, go back to the evil that or whatever. But like I did not expect for him. I did not expect him to just go back and find some like uninhabited part of out in the suburb outside of London to like,
I
to live
thought
out
he
his
would
life.
just I thought he would just become a hermit and age and live out his life and, you know, be a spectacle, but
Man, I don't maybe you can help me remember because when you were talking about the conflict that he's feeling between like be like this lust or this love that he has for her and not wanting to feel it because it's wrong, it made me think of another character and I don't know who it is or from what movie/story because my brain fog has been on a 10 and I'll probably remember it as soon as we end the stream. Um but it's a man who's going through this and like punishing himself for lusting after this woman. And it's something that we've read and it's driving me crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
But
remember.
but you know what? Actually, since we're talking about that, it also reminds me of the guy from Hunchback of Notre Dame, where he's like all about Esmeralda, but like is like in denial that he's lusting for her, or lusting after her. But that's not the reference that I'm going for. Denial.
Yeah. Well, the ending of this book always shocks me because I just never even though I've read it multiple times, I always forget that that's how it ends
That's the
because
best
it's
kind of
like,
book.
yeah, right? I always forget that that's what happens until I start to get really close to it and then I'm like, "Oh yeah."
You know what he said, Tanya? You cannot have my pain.
Stormlight
Boom.
reference.
Buzzer beater.
Well, I suppose that's the end of our stream.
Hmm. Yeah. In March, we are doing another one. I think I think it's gonna be the book that I talked about. But it's called Savage Her Reply. We're doing an Irish woman author for St. Patrick's Day because
And Women's History
and
Month.
Women's History Month. It's March 10th. Um, it is an adaptation, or I guess like a riff on the story of King Lear, which basically what happens is he marries this woman who turns his children into swans for centuries, maybe 100 years. I can't remember how many centuries. So yeah, we're going to be reading that, and it's dark and twisted and all the things that we love. Um, and it took a while for me to find it because like digging into Irish woman author fantasies that doesn't lean stupid heavy into romance was a little difficult. So yeah. Savage Her Reply. We'll put links and all this stuff in there. But you've got time to read it. Although I will say that I had to order the book from Tanya, I got you one too. I ordered two. Surprise.
Okay, because I don't see it in the library.
In the library and it's like I haven't found it anywhere. It was I think I had to order on Amazon. So yeah, we'll read those books, the actual physical copy, and we'll talk about it. So, we got it for $3, so, you know,
Oh,
find
cool.
it
Thank you.
somewhere. Savage Her Reply. Um, hold on, let me Google the author. I feel like it's a super Irish name.
I don't know how to pronounce
Deirdre
Irish names at
Deirdre
all.
Sullivan.
Okay, that's a
Deirdre
easy
Sullivan,
one.
and I'll put that in the chat. Um, Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading that because it's one of those it's like on Goodreads, it's only got great reviews, which, people love to go hate on Goodreads. Um, so yeah. Na, 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 na.
Next month, we have 30 Tuesday. We'll be doing Romeo plus Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann version, which
Can't
is
wait.
just
I misspelled that.
a movie I fucking love. So check us out for that. That would be February 13th at 9 p.m. as are all of the 30 Tuesdays.
Can't wait. I'm really excited. I watched it already. Did I tell you that? I watched it.
No, I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
watch it yet.
I watched it already because like I haven't seen it in so long, and it's one of those movies that I own on Amazon, and it was great. It made me want to read more Shakespeare. I haven't read Shakespeare in like maybe about a year. I read King Lear, and that was just so fun. So yeah, yeah. Um, it's so funny because when we first said we were gonna do it, someone was like, "Which year?" And we're like, "Psst, "The only
The
year."
only one?
Right? Like it's really great to see all these like I'll save it for the stream. I'll
Yeah.
save it for, and I believe Ayla's gonna be our guest on that too.
Yes.
Ayla Casey is gonna be our guest. We're Casey rich. We had Stephen Casey for Pootie Tang, and we're having Ayla Casey for Romeo and
Romeo and
Juliet.
Juliet.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a blast. If you haven't read Brave New World, still go read it, even though we ruined it for you.
Yeah, you'll forget, trust
You'll
me.
forget. I forget, and I've read it multiple times,
Yeah.
and I still forget. I like to wait like 2 years before I read it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Anything interesting that you're reading right now?
Let me check my Goodreads and I'll tell you. I finally started reading I think it's called This Was Not Supposed to Happen. Hold on, currently reading. Um
I'm currently reading Master of Poisons, but I took a really long break since I had a concussion,
mm,
and I haven't gotten back into it. Now I feel like I can't, and I might start something else and then go back to that later.
right. So I'm currently reading "You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight" by Kaylin Bayron, which is basically it's a black horror. Um, and the premise is that there are these camp counselors who are running a horror themed camp based on a movie that had based on a movie that was based on real events that took place at this lake. Sound familiar? A
Like
little bit.
Lanier.
Yeah, like Camp Crystal Lake, kind of like that, but reenacting the events that happened there. And suddenly, like people start going missing, and I think they just left because they're isolated and the phone service is terrible, no cell service. So imagine. I'm also kind of reading the Merciless ones. I'm getting to the part where they're about to like kidnap the guy at the camp, and I'm just waiting for everything to go wrong. And then I'm also reading Feuchtgebiete, which is in German, which is the original writing, but it's called Wetlands in English, which is absolutely shocking. Like I didn't think there was anyone crazier than me out there doing any writing, but I was wrong. And oh man. And I'm also reading Fantastically Twisted, which is a collection of short stories by Ava May, which she's an author who was like, why are all these stories getting all Disneyfied? I want the darkness. And she's doing reinterpretations of classic fairy tales. So
I
super
started
awesome.
Midnight Robber by Nella Hopkinson. I started that too,
Hmm.
but I've barely gotten into it. So I might go back to that before I go back to Master of Poisons.
I have that in my list in my Kindle too, and I haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm reading all these books now so I can get them out of the way because this is a Sanderson reread year.
I
So
did
all of
start listening to Stormlight from the beginning.
Did it make you happy? Because
It
it makes me
did. It did. Kaladin and Syl just remembered her name. So like that's how early in it I am.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. You know what it is? It's like that whole first sequence, like the prologue and then the first chapter, or I guess no, it's I don't know if it's a prologue. So the part where the Radiants are like, "Oh no, we're out," to the part where we meet Seth for the first time.
mhm.
Man, every time I reread that or listen to it, just like I cannot wait to see this on screen, and please make it a series, not a movie.
Oh, there's no way it could be a movie. It's too much information. It would absolutely have to be a series, and it might even, depending on budget, it might have to be an anime
I'm here for it. You know I love anime.
because you have to have a good budget to get
Ooh.
shard plate right, you know?
Mhm.
So you need a good CGI budget. So come through HBO.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Whew. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank
Always.
you, everyone who watched. Thank you for joining us.
Mhm.
And we will see you next month. Well, couple weeks, really, for
Yeah.
Romeo plus Juliet at 30 Tuesdays.
Yeah. And if you have missed other book clubs, please go back. We've got a playlist of all our book club books and all of our 30 Tuesdays. Yeah.
Go
And
get
I think
familiar.
we're gonna have 1,000 Eyes on One stream coming up soon.
Yeah, we need to get back into A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, you know what? And because we talked to Steven the other day, he's never watched the show and is
Oh
willing to
yeah.
watch it.
Yes, he's willing to watch it just so we can talk about it from the beginning with a newbie.
Because we started at season 5 or 6. So
6. We started at season 6.
yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Have a good Sunday.
Bye.
Stay warm.
Oh God, please stay warm.
Bye.